We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's start with our flag salute. Committee member Carlene, please. Thank you. Let's go ahead and do roll call. Committee member Anderson? Present. Committee member Farnbach?
Present.
Committee member Nunn?
Present.
Committee member Uriarty?
Present.
And committee member Wilson?
Present.
And myself, committee member No, here. All right. So we're going to start off with public comment. A total of 30 minutes is, well,
No.
let's start there.
Hold on real quick. I wonder if it doesn't
That's why I stopped.
say what item. Mark and Kelly Kozak, would you like to approach the podium to speak? Oh, here. Front. He didn't write it. Hold on. Business. Mhm.
Excuse me, why don't you, Julie, why don't you go ahead and read the public comment requirements? Thank you.
All right. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the committee on matters not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the committee secretary. Speaker cards will be called in the order received. All audio-visual use is prohibited. Public comments may also be submitted by email for inclusion into the record. Email comments must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments and submitted to Old Town Local Advisory Committee at temeculaca.gov. All public participation is governed by council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. So then
Can we have you speak on item 2 or 3? Because you said yes on front.
Luke's on front.
Mhm.
Okay, this is just an added one for later then.
Under business.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call you when we get to the business
Okay.
section.
Thank you.
So,
We have no public comments. He will speak on a business item.
perfect. Thank you so much. All right, consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the committee request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the committee on items that appear on the consent calendar. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the committee secretary. Speaker cards will be called in the order received. All video and audio usage is prohibited. Public comments may also be submitted by email for inclusion into the record. Email comments must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments and submitted to Old Town Local Advisory Committee at temecula.gov. All public participation is governed by council policy regarding public participation in meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. I will memorize that one day. All right, so I think our first consent thing is minutes. We need to approve the action minutes of July 25th, 2024.
Motion to approve?
All right, so committee member Nunn is second. Is committee member Wilson? And all in favor? Any nays? Any abstains? So moved. Thank you. All right, so now we are on to the business. Members of the public, so now we're on to the business side of the meeting. Members of the public may address the committee on business items that appear on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the committee secretary. Speaker cards will be called in the order received. All audio and visual use is prohibited. Public comments may also be submitted by email for inclusion into the record. Email comments must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments and submitted to Old Town Local Advisory Committee at Temecula, California, at temeculaca.gov. All public participation is governed by council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. So first up, we're going to talk about an update on the construction on the 6th Street improvement, formerly sidewalks, Old Town improvements, south side of 6th Street. Okay.
Very good. We have a presentation from Public Works, so I'll ask Amir Attar to come up.
Good morning, Madam Chair, member of the committee, city staff. We're here today to give you information about an upcoming construction project that's going to start after Labor Day. And I have here the project manager, Emily Sena, who's going to do the presentation.
Hi, guys. Let me get this presentation up here. Perfect. All right, so like you said, this is for the 6th Street Improvement Project, internal project number PW 22-16. And we'll get started.
Can you hold 1 second? Sorry.
No problem.
Computer error. Us error. Go ahead.
No problem. Okay, so this is the project location. We're on the south side of 6th Street in between Old Town Front Street and Mercedes Street. And then we're also going to be completing 4 total curb ramp bulb outs. So 2 being on the 6th Street and Mercedes Street intersection, and then 2 on the 5th Street and Mercedes Street intersection. The project scope is to improve the south side of 6th Street according to the Old Town specific plan, add the curb ramp bulb outs on 6th and Mercedes and 5th and Mercedes. And the improvements will include extending the sidewalk to 10 feet to the full width of the right-of-way, and that'll be in the San Diego buff color standard, as well as rolled curb and gutter, 8 trees with tree wells and grates, 4 decorative double-posted streetlights, and 1 commercial driveway. This is the existing condition of 6th Street. As you can see, it's varied sidewalk widths in both asphalt and then natural concrete color, and there's no existing streetlights. This is on the corner of Mercedes and 6th Street, looking to the west towards Old Town Front Street, and you can see the existing natural concrete with the standard curb. So we'll be extending this 10 feet wide to the full width of the right-of-way, and you can see in the image with the red, that will include extending into those landscaping improvements right there. So that will be removed and replaced with the 10-foot wide concrete. Moving towards the west, there is the 1 commercial driveway that we will be removing and replacing with the existing width. So it's just going to be updated to the San Diego buff color. That retaining wall to the west of that will also be protected in place. So this new proposed concrete will just go right up to that retaining wall. Moving down, this property is Wild Gypsy Boutique. There is existing improvements in the public right-of-way, so these 2 trees will be removed, as well as some of the slates just up into the public right-of-way. The rest of the slates will be protected in place. And moving down, there's just some additional landscaping that will be removed with the 10-foot wide concrete. The last property near the corner of Old Town Front Street on 6th Street has a double driveway currently. We will be removing this driveway and placing in concrete, so they'll be eliminating access off of 6th Street. So the parking lot, private parking lot in this lot will be accessed only through the alleyway towards the back of the property. And this is another view of that same property with an image of that existing dirt parking lot. And you can see towards the tree in the back, the sycamore tree, that's where the tenants will be entering in the alleyway. And on the corner of Old Town Front Street, there's these 2 parking spots that are just sort of drive-up parking spots. These will also be removed and replaced with the standard concrete. Per the Old Town specific plan, the new improvements will provide walking services to the pedestrians and increase transportation and connectivity. This is an example of the final result. This is a 5th Street example. So you can see it's a 10-foot wide concrete, rolled curb and gutter, trees, tree grates and wells, and the street lights. Moving on to the curb ramp bulb outs. This is the existing 2 on 6th Street in Mercedes. You can see that currently they don't bulb out, they're just the standard curb ramps. 5th Street as well, right here, they are just standard curb ramps, and so we'll be improving them to have bulb outs. Per the Old Town specific plan, the bulb outs are traffic calming measures. They'll slow vehicular movement and increase the visibility of pedestrians. Here's an example of the final result. This is on the corner of Old Town Front Street and 5th Street. You can see it just provides much more visibility for the pedestrians crossing the crosswalks. And that's the presentation. Do you guys have any questions?
Now I'm just pressing the wrong buttons. Did my committee have any questions? All right, I'll start with Rebecca Farnbach.
Is there a reason that you're eliminating the entrance behind Mischievous?
Yes. So the property owner, we were in correspondence with them, and they decided with this project that they did no longer want access off of 6th Street. It just promoted a lot of public parking, especially with the farmers market being directly across from them. So this will just provide a more private lot for them.
Director, Commission, go ahead, Scott.
What's the proposed timeline for the completion?
Yes, so we are looking to start after Labor Day, and the contract is 80 working days, so that'll put us approximately in January.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Will there be any road closures during that time?
So there will be closures of the parking all along 6th Street. There shouldn't be any prolonged, closures of the roadway. There'll be access and alternative routes and traffic calming measures.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there any alternative parking plans for people who do park? And will there be any parking closures on Mercedes and 5th Street during the construction?
So there will be, there is 2 corner spots right there that will need to be, reserved so that the contractor can complete the improvements. They should be able to do the work within the parking spaces for the concrete work. And then there'll be closures for the asphalt work that's required around that. And then for alternate parking spots, there is the 6th Street parking lot right across the street from all these properties, so they're all able to park right there. For the dirt parking lot on the corner of Old Town Front and 6th Street, as I said, they'll have the alley access, so they'll be able to park still in their lot.
All right, my biggest concern is just, again, residents. We don't have parking. I park on 6th Street most of the time because I can't get parking anywhere else, and we are at risk of, you're not supposed to park overnight in the lot on 6th Street across from the fire station. So that's just
Gotcha.
my concern.
Yeah. If anything, just go directly across the street or just one street over to 5th Street. All those parking accesses will be available.
Well, they're always full. That's my point. There's not enough parking.
Yeah.
There's never, I either have to park on 6th Street or I have to park my car in the garage and move it at 11 o'clock at night. My concern is just for residents losing out on those parking spaces for this long amount of time, especially during the holidays.
Gotcha.
Any other comments?
Yes. How many parking spaces are being impacted and temporarily lost on 6th Street?
That is a good question. I don't have the exact amount off the top of my head, but it will be from Old Town Front to Mercedes on the south side.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
Is there a way, because I believe they're going to be working at the south end of town and the Roger Epperson parking structure, eliminating spaces down there, which is going to condense everybody into the core of Old Town where there's already not enough parking. When the improvements were done on Mercedes last year, it was a nightmare finding parking. Is there any way that the city's parking lot, that 1 hour parking from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. can be removed so that parking structure can be available to tenants during these construction periods?
That's something we would need to discuss with
That would be
internally.
great. Yeah, that would be great. It is, parking is probably the number one priority of some of us here. And while we absolutely support the long-term improvement plans, the temporary situation, which seems to be temporary in different spots throughout the year, and street closures, for example, the street closure for the market tonight, it really creates mothers with children and groceries, even single parent people working at night, having to walk long distances through maybe unlit passageways. I have lost tenants because of the parking situation, so it's a number one priority for me to protect their interests. So, and I'm glad you mentioned that the commercial tenant who was losing that access was okay with it. It was one of my concerns, is how did that property owner feel about losing the access? To me, that would decrease property value. So anyway, those are my only comments.
Thank you. I think my only one is the overnight lift, just for that time frame, because you're going to hit the holidays, which is all the holiday parties in Old Town with the corporations that come to the restaurants and have their holiday parties, and then the shopping. And I know that the ice rink's coming also all at the same time, and that's really going to impact that backside of Mercedes. I would just think to consider lifting that 2 to 7 a.m. so that tenants can park. And I think that'll be the hard part, and maybe it will be having to give tenants permits for a while, or like something on their windows so that it's not just the general public, but tenants only that are allowed to park overnight 2 to 7, maybe putting something in their windshield that says, I'm a tenant in Old Town, I need to park here. But that might be a consideration you guys have. I'm just seeing holiday, and I'm on 5th and Mercedes, so I know that holiday impact's gonna be huge, because that skating rink is a lot of people. So I can't imagine if we're closing parking during that hot time, and with Epperson being closed. But I think Epperson should be open by then, so that will help alleviate, but still, we need to at least consider that lifting that 2 to 7 just for tenant overnight parking. And that would include the 6th Street lot, because I think that is limited also, if I'm not mistaken, the one behind East.
Everything that's like city controlled, so the gravel lots, the
Okay,
parking garage,
yeah.
6th Street, it's the no 2 to 7.
Okay, so that might be just something to consider. Put something in their thing. So excellent. Do I have any? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Really,
Oh, go ahead.
nice job.
Oh, hold on one second. Oh, go ahead.
I have one other question.
Yeah.
Did we get a timetable for when this is going to be done?
80 days. 80 days.
Okay.
So through January.
80
you.
working
Got it.
days.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
No worries. All right, go ahead.
This was a good discussion. I'd just like to add, we'll work with Public Works and a council subcommittee, and we'll bring this back on the next agenda in September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we will take public comments now, I guess, on that?
Yes, we have one speaker, Mark and Kelly Kuzak.
Okay.
Yeah, our concern today is about the progress not being made in the south end parking lot. I forget the name of it.
So in the Stampede parking lot, in the last meeting we discussed, sorry, I'm Kelly from Luke's in Old Town Temecula. So it started on 8/5, and we were given about 90 days to do the completion. Our biggest concern was that a lot of people weren't notified, the parking structure, the timeline didn't seem right, didn't seem like a lot of things were done properly, and our biggest concern actually happened. They didn't get a surveyor out. Construction's been put to a halt. They've just been sitting out there. We have to park, I should know, because as of last night, I was walking at 1 a.m. after walking on my hostesses at midnight to the parking garage. Then I had to walk from myself all the way to Rancho Liquor Market because I had an event, and there was no parking. So they roped off another 2 rows. So the only parking that was available last night and the last couple days was the last rows in the back of the Stampede. All those tenants that are in our building and in other buildings surrounding us are offices, so they use those parking throughout the day. So even at 1 o'clock, I still was parking at Rancho Liquor Market, if it gives you an idea. And if anyone is blocked out in the heat like we do, and I move my car plenty of times with events, having to unload and unload, to have a parking structure and everything around us busy already by 1 o'clock from everyone else, it gives you an idea what it's like for the tenants, for the moms, for the Thursday night stuff that happens here. There's no way that the timeline that was already given is even going to happen at this point. We already know that it's going to get pushed into January, which is already going to affect our events. I have staff that's late. I have staff asking to take days off. They're refusing to come in because of the traffic. By the time they get stuck on the freeway, there's freeway traffic, there's Old Town traffic, there's city closures on the backside, there's building closures. Pachanga Parkway was closed off. Last week was the first day of school, and they closed off almost every single area. The entire town was on gridlock. And now we are going to look at doing another one on 6th Street. How about we put all of our efforts into doing just one and getting that done properly, and then moving forward? It really is a really hard feat, and it really is affecting a lot of us. My husband's having a hard time walking. My staff's having a hard time walking. It's just really late, and it's putting a lot of pressure on me as a business owner and as a mom to walk late at night and then to call these moms and tell them that their daughter's safe at night. So that's just coming from a business owner, not even from the women who work late at night and have to move their cars. You guys said you had a trolley. That hasn't been implemented. The midnight release in front of Bailey's hasn't been taken down. There's also one in front of City Hall, has not been taken down. Last week, the city posted, it said there were 33 DUIs. My staff almost drove home young girls. They said they were perfectly fine. They were scared of getting towed. I don't know if you guys know how much towing costs in Old Town. It's $750. So if you're stuck on a Thursday or Friday night and you cannot get your car out, it is locked until Friday. You will be paying $750 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until Monday morning. They will charge you a half fee on Monday morning. That is how much it costs for these young kids. So that means everyone's affected at Stampede, so they're willing to take the risk and drive. And that scares me. And it's not just with us and the young girls, and we don't allow it, and it's a zero tolerance. And that was also brought up. So anytime the girls go out, we're the first ones that they call. We pick them up late at night, and we drive them to wherever they are so their cars aren't getting stuck overnight. It's a big thing that isn't being addressed either. It's just really hard late at nights. And we're talking, this is at 1 o'clock. So from this happening from 8/5 until now, I'm having these issues at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Can you guys imagine what it's like at any other hour? Not including when anyone lives down here or any of the businesses. I get the construction needs to happen. I completely understand that. But if anyone has noticed, the entire city of Temecula is under gridlock right now. It's a massive and major concern that we need to address, but it's not getting done. And every time we hear this, and that's why a lot of people can't come to the meetings, because it doesn't get addressed and it keeps getting moved to another meeting. It actually needs to have action, needs to happen soon, because it's causing a lot of businesses will have closures. I don't know if you're noticing on Temecula Talk, people's hours are getting cut. Jobs are going down. The economy is going down. It's affecting all of us. And this parking is not helping. So it's not just Old Town. It's a little bit of everything, but to literally tell everyone, you see it on Temecula Talk, don't go to Old Town, don't go on the freeways, don't go out. It's a massive concern for us. And that was addressed at a last meeting that we were really concerned of, and it actually did happen. So we just want to make sure, like, as of last night, I was actually late because I fell asleep after taking the kids to school this morning. After driving them all around and walking in the heat, I was exhausted. So that's it. Unless you have anything. Nope.
No, basically my whole concern is in
Does he get 5 minutes too?
12 to 14 days, they've dug two few strips of asphalt for 15 days. And the company that's doing it has one guy working on it, 4 guys sitting on the bed of a truck, not doing anything. And there's just no, I try and talk to them, and I'm like, when are you guys gonna get going? Because you're not, I can't motivate them to move faster, but there's no direction going on out there, and from their company or from the city. So it's basically what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee?
Is it possible to get an update from Public Works on the progress of that project?
We'll do that under the Public Works Director report.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. And I know I did get a couple of calls on that, so I did alert them to have some updates, so thank you.
Can we close the public comment? There are no
Yes.
further requests to speak.
Yes, sorry, closing public comments. All right. All right, so I think my only comment is, just to check in with Public Works to see if these delays are happening or if they're going to connect the timeline together. So perfect. Thank you. All right. So we are now moving on to receiving the update on the Old Town Hotel activity, the long-range plan or number? Okay. Who's doing?
Please read the agenda item.
Oh, receive update on Old Town Hotel activity, long-range number LR 240301. Recommendation that the committee receive and file an update on the Old Town Hotel activity.
Perfect. And we have a presentation from Scott Cooper and Eric Jones from the Planning Department.
Thank you. So given that this is a newer group, we felt it'd be important to give you kind of an update on the background of some of the hotel activity that we've had here in Old Town over the past couple of years. So that's what our presentation this morning will consist of. If you take a look at the Old Town specific plan, hotels obviously an allowable use, and in fact, the Old Town specific plan encourages hotel development with some of the policies that you'd see in that document. For example, we have maximum height for hotels outside the overlay district at 55 feet. You go into the hotel overlay district, you're at 100 feet. Scott Cooper will talk a little bit more about that a little later in the presentation. Parking for hotels, you got at least one space. Now, parking's a big deal. Got at least one space per guest room. And then for the full-service hotels, which Scott will talk a little bit more about later on as well, you got one space per 300 square feet of any conference rooms, meeting rooms, things like that, in addition to the one space per room and whatnot. So with just a general background there, let's get into some of the hotels that we've been looking at over the past couple of years. First is the Truax Hotel, and this was supposed to actually be located directly across the street from us where we are today. It was approved back in 2017. It is expired, but we thought it was important to show it to you because it does show kind of what's possible, what could be approved and ultimately built one day. Just some quick stats on it: 6 stories, 88 feet high, 185 rooms. This was a full-service hotel, so it had the pool, the lounge, conference facilities, things of that nature. Also had some leasable commercial space in the front for any type of restaurants or shops that wanted to come in, so that type of stuff. They did have a parking structure that was going to be located directly across the street, which you'll see here in just a minute, and it was going to hold 513 spaces. When it was originally approved, it was only going to hold 218, but then they decided to go with an automated system where you drive in, enter your information, and basically a conveyor takes your car throughout the building. That was going to come out to 513. It was going to look like this. Here's an elevation. This is on the corner of 3rd Street and Old Town Front, kind of looking towards the southeast, if you will. It was going to take up the whole block, and it was designed to look like it was built over time, with the facade there along Front Street, with that western kind of facade. Then as you move back, you're kind of a little more Spanish. The parking structure, this would be directly across the street from it, kind of in between the salon that's there and the barbecue restaurant. This is what it would look like. And this also, per the specific plan, if you look there in the bottom right-hand corner, that was going to be a little commercial space as well, because that's one of the requirements in the SP. You can't just have a parking structure or a parking lot, you have to have some commercial activity. So that was the Truax Hotel. Unfortunately, it did expire. And the next up, we have the 4th Street Hotel, and I'll turn it over to Scott for the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Eric. So this was the 4th Street Hotel. It was located on the south side of 4th Street, approximately 50 feet southwest of Mercedes Street. So it was approved April 18th of 2018. It's been through 4 extensions of time. They're eligible for 1 more extension of time. It was 4 stories, 54 feet high, 111 guest rooms. There was an outdoor courtyard pool area, a gym, a bar, and a restaurant. 103 parking spaces at surface and mostly underground. This is what the hotel is going to look like. Again, it has 1 more extension of time left. Interesting fact about this is originally it was flipped. So where the entrance, you see the car on the right side, it was originally on the left side on the top end. When the builder or applicant got a flag attached to it or a hotel, they came in with their hotel consultant and decided that everything was wrong in the interior of the hotel, so they needed to flip the entire building. So this is the proposed new layout. Moving on to the boutique hotel, this is the most recent approved hotel. This is located on the west side of Old Town Front Street, approximately 400 feet south of Santiago Road. This is actually the last parcel within the specific plan. You move any further south and you get into service commercial uses of just regular Temecula zoning. And then I guess you would know, just north of this is the U-Haul lot that's just on the dirt over there.
Mm-hmm.
So this was approved June 19th of this year. So 4 stories, 57 feet high, 50 rooms, 6 retail spaces on the ground floor, an outdoor patio area, gym, pool, bar, and dining area. The pool on this, I'll show you here in a second, the pool on this is actually on the roof. 50 parking spaces for the 50 rooms. So this is the view from Old Town Front Street. On the top of this building on the right is the pool area. It's also where the dining area is. On the ground floor on Front Street is retail. That's a requirement of the specific plan. And then this is the view from Murrieta Creek. So an interesting part of this is when you're located along Murrieta Creek is treated as if it's Front Street. So you have to have activation along the creek. You can't just park the cars or put a wall or whatever. So you're going to have retail outlets along the creek just as you would along Front Street as well. So this is the most recent hotel that is in review with the city. It's the Temecula Resort and Spa. It's located here next to the parking garage on the east side of Old Town Front Street between 1st Street and 2nd Street adjacent to I-15. So as Eric was talking about, this is within the hotel overlay zoning district. So you can see here in red exactly where that overlay district is. So we'll talk here a second about full service hotels. So this is the only area in Old Town where full service hotels are allowed. So on May 25th of 2010, the City Council adopted an ordinance which allows for full service hotels at a building height greater than other buildings in Old Town. You can actually go up to 8 stories and 100 feet in height with a full service hotel. So the height allowance is an incentive to bring additional economic activity into Old Town, bring conferences, large meetings, events. In order to receive the height incentive and designation of full service hotel, projects are required to meet the design criteria and development standards of the zoning district, in addition to the supplemental requirements for full service hotels. So what are those requirements? So hotel lobbies shall be located along streets, plazas, courtyards, or sidewalks to create visual interest for pedestrians. Hotel rooms shall be accessed from an interior hallway. Hotels shall provide an on-site restaurant with table service provided primarily by a wait person, seating for at least 30 customers, and a full menu service offering multiple entrees with on-site food preparation. Hotels shall also provide conference facility space to accommodate a minimum of 1,000 people. Also, development shall be designed to create an outdoor pedestrian space featuring amenities such as benches, outdoor dining, public art, gardens, courtyard, forecourt, or a plaza. Building facades shall be articulated with wall offsets, recesses, opening, ornamentation, and colors and materials to add texture with special detail to the streetscape. Pool and spa facilities are permitted, but they're only allowed on patios, balconies, or terraces located on the 2nd Street or above when integrated into the building architecture and design. So this hotel was submitted early January of 2022. It was first presented to the Planning Commission on September 6th of 2023. At that meeting, the Planning Commission accepted staff's recommendation of redesign of the project in order to comply with the development standards of the Old Town Specific Plan. That first submittal, there was some of those standards that I just read, but then many other that are just in the specific plan for any building were not being met. So it was staff's recommendation for a redesign, and the Planning Commission agreed with staff. It was then presented at Planning Commission on May 14th of this year. At that meeting, Planning Commission requested a redesign of the project to include some more specific elements for horizontal and vertical articulation, relocating the pool from the freeway to a location that interacts with Old Town, and to provide functioning balconies. So as proposed, the hotel is 7 stories. At its height, top height, it's 91 feet high, 355 rooms, 6 retail spaces, pool, spa, a wedding garden, day spa, retail outlets, restaurants, bars, a ballroom, meeting rooms, and 385 parking spaces. So this is the most recent depiction of what was taken to Planning Commission in May. So this is the view from the corner of First Street and Old Town Front Street. So this would be the first building you see really when you get into Old Town. It's right next to the arch. So be the view from Old Town Front Street. So this would be the main entrance into the hotel from the street. If you're actually driving, you drive into a parking garage. So all the parking is interior to the building. And then this is the view from 2nd Street. So you have retail outlets all on 2nd Street, and that opening on the right side would be the main entrance for automobiles to get in to check into the hotel. And then finally, this is the view from the freeway. This depicts the pool along the freeway. So this was one of the requests of the Planning Commission to move the pool from the freeway to an area, onto Front Street. So if you're hanging out in the pool, you're interacting with what's going on in Old Town, not hiding the pool in the back of the hotel. The applicant at staff's request also provided a shade study early on in this project, and it showed that on the sunniest day of the year, the sunny summer solstice, the pool really gets out of the sun. I believe it was like by 1 or 2 in the afternoon, just due to the height of the building. So it's not really conducive to what's being told to the city as a 5-star hotel. So, and then also here on the left side of the screen in the green, that was a dog area. So that's also being relocated. That concludes staff's presentation. Eric and I are both here for questions.
Any questions from, go ahead.
It appears to me that the parking ratio is off. For example, you have 355 rooms on this Temecula resort, 6 retail spaces, and 385 parking spaces. Then you're offering a conference center and a ballroom. Where are the employees going to park? Where are the guests going to park? 1 space per room does not provide for all the staff support or family coming in to visit or, things like that. So what I'm hearing, and I love the planning, and I love that we're bringing these beautiful projects, but first we have to solve the parking. We have to before we keep giving green lights to projects that the parking can't support. So that's what I would like to see is getting back to parking, getting back to the core number 1 priority of this group. What about the parking? It's being overlooked. 1,000, I think you said, to accommodate 1,000 people in a ballroom or a conference room. Where are they going to park? So that's my only thing. Otherwise, I think these projects are beautiful, and I'm excited about it if we can resolve these core problems.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned regarding the Truex project that it has expired. What's the city's ability to kind of open that property back up? I mean, right now we've got that big ugly fence, the land's ungraded. At least on the other project, the Temecula Resort and Spa, they let it be used for parking. So that, I mean, that's a really good use. So really that and the 4th Street, but you said 4th Street does have an extension where Truex has expired. What's our next steps?
Well,
Yeah, actually, Brandon Rabideau, who manages code enforcement, can provide an update on that.
Great.
Good morning, everyone. So on that particular property is whenever we have a situation where there could be a dangerous circumstance, for instance, you mentioned the grading and the pits there, we need to make sure that because of Old Town and the pedestrian traffic we have, that the fences remain. And so as a part of our process, when someone's not able to keep those fences in place, we take over and we have those fences in place right now. So we're not at a point where we could just regrade the lot, but we have to make sure that those fences stay up so we don't have children or other pedestrians falling into those large pits. So that's how we would handle something in the circumstances. We protect the public, and then we go through the next steps in order to ensure that the site stays safe permanently.
So at this point, is it really just a matter of the property being sold to someone else for anything to happen to it?
We're not getting constant communication from the current property owner on what's occurring with that, but it's going to fall into due course, whether it's they make a sale, bankruptcy, or other circumstances that could arise. Our sole purpose is to ensure public safety with the fencing there. And so that's why it can't easily be turned into a parking lot or anything like that, because that's a gift of public funds. We just have to make sure that the public safety component is taken care of.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay?
And go ahead.
As a historian and as somebody who looks after Old Town and wants to keep some vestige of not just the past, the ugly past, the undeveloped Temecula, but somebody who wants to keep some vestiges of the long-term past, I object to something that I think I have no power or we have no power over, and that is the specific plan allowing the height of the buildings. I do not like how the height of the buildings obscures the mountainscape and the landscape of our precious area. You know, this is an area that stagecoaches came down Old Town Front Street on the Butterfield Overland Mail. What did they see then? What did the early people see? What do Ralph Love's paintings show of Old Town? And if we're changing to, I was against the Truax project. I was very vocal against the Truax project because of curb to curb and height.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like we're powerless because all of these things have been chiseled in stone by other commissions and councils and so on. And it's kind of like I'm straddling my responsibility to maintain our history versus make sure that we progress economically and as a city. So I don't really have a strong message here. It's just that I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated by the change of our landscape, by the height of the buildings, and that we're filling up every nook and cranny as we have an opportunity to. It just seems like we should have some more space. Presently, we have some space here, but it's not green and pretty. Yes, we have parking needs too, but I prefer projects like the one that's on the south side of Santiago, because that's out of the heart of the district where all of the traditional historical activity took place. So I guess I'm wasting my breath to say it, but I just feel obligated to the other people in the historic community and the other people who care about preserving something of our past, and just take it or leave it, but I can't help but speak for it.
Thank you. Can I clarify one thing? Are you speaking of the 4-foot high or the 8-foot high? Or both?
I like the 3-story.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Is there any limit onto how many hotels can be down here, or are we gonna end up with the hotel on Second Street and on Fourth Street and the Truax Hotel, and then there's gonna be a boutique hotel right outside of? Is there any limit on how many there can be?
So there is an EIR that was prepared for Old Town that did take into account a maximum number of hotel rooms. Should the number of hotel rooms approved go over that number, then a addendum to that EIR would have to be done that would reevaluate everything. Traffic, greenhouse gas, air quality, the whole everything. So we're not at that point yet.
So just based on some of the comments, I'd just like to provide some perspective. We hear you. We share some of your same concerns. The last update to the specific plan was in 2010. I know there were well over 40 meetings. There was public outreach. So there was a lot of input, different committees, different boards, and adoption by the city council. Times have changed. And we hear you, we hear what's being said, we understand the concerns about parking and some of these concerns about height. So we'll be taking your input, and we'll take a look at it and report back with maybe a plan of action to begin to address some of these issues. But as we go through this, there's a lot for this committee to deal with, and then we'll have to prioritize and take it one step at a time.
All right, thank you. I just had two questions, actually one question and two comments. The first question is, what's an EIR? I apologize.
Environmental impact report.
Thank you, sorry, that might have just been me. All right, so, and then the second thing is, yes, I would agree if you could come back to us, because staff support of parking is really important, where these workers are going to park is such a huge, huge issue. I don't worry so much about like convention stuff, because they're just gonna understand there's no parking, but we can't impact the staffing. I mean, that's just really, really difficult for any business to survive when their people are frustrated that they can't even get to work. So that would be, I think, one thing when you're looking at these plans is we would say, look at parking for staffing, not just the general public. So that was it. All right, do I need to close that agenda item? No, just file it.
We can open and close because there are no requests to speak on this item.
All right, so we
And
can
we would
close
just
that one.
File and
And-
close.
Yep, file and close. And then the next one is the Community Services Department updates.
We have a full report from TCSD.
Hi, committee members. So I'm Tracy Tominez, a supervisor 2 for the Special Events Division within the Community Services Department. Today, I'm just going to give you a brief update of what's to come up between now and our next committee meeting. So first off, I do have copies of the new season brochure for the Old Town Temecula Community Theater, so I'll be passing out these to you. So this starts off with all the shows and performances that'll begin this fall and then goes through early to mid 2025. And then between now and our next meeting, we do kind of start our fall season of events. So our first one that'll be coming up in Old Town is Saturday, September 7th, and that'll be our National Preparedness Fair. It's in the morning from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So this is a chance to learn about emergency preparedness through our Temecula Emergency Management team and also meet our law enforcement and local disaster service workers. Then the following weekend on September 14th, we will have our Cartoonapalooza featuring Art Fest. So many years ago, some of you may have known it as the Art and Street Painting Festival. It has seen some changes over the years. So this year's event, it focuses on art exhibitors, whether they're photographers, painters, making jewelry, but also our cartoon, comics, anime, cosplay. So it's a little bit of fun for everyone. So that is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, September 14th here in front of City Hall. And then the last one to kind of wrap up September will be our Health and Community Resource Fair on Saturday, September 28th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that has a lot of different organizations offering information about health and resource. We do have anywhere from a doctor's office, an insurance agency, and even yoga instructors, and they also provide free health screenings during that time. So next week at the council meeting on August 27th, we will be going to council with our proposed road closures for the fall season. So that, as I mentioned, we'll start off with the preparedness fair on September 7th and go through mid-November. And so we do the road closures quarterly. That way we do it by the season. So then following that, that'll include road closures for the winter season, which, as you'd mentioned, the ice skating rink. So that's something we do on a quarterly basis that we present to council. And then that's kind of the fun stuff coming up between now and the September meeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions or have any feedback if there's something more specific you'd like me to include for future community service department updates.
Can we get a written agenda? I have some residential tenants, and I'd like to give them a heads up with, in writing, the street schedule and the recreation schedule.
Yes, so as I mentioned with the road closures, so when those go to council, we have our formal report that we do, and then my team, we go out and hand deliver a flyer, and then we'll make sure to include an email copy. Sometimes
That'd
it
be
is
great.
tricky for us to have contacts for all of the businesses and
No,
residents.
if you get them to me, I'll
Yes.
get them where they need to go for me.
Yes,
So
I
thank
will.
you. Okay,
I will do
appreciate
that.
Anyone else? I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tracy.
Perfect, thank you, and then I'll just leave these with
All right. Our Public Works Director report.
Miritar.
Good morning again. So as far as the Epperson parking lot, we did get into a slow start because we had some conflict with the underground utility structure, and we had to do some redesign work. So when the resident, see that there isn't a lot of work going on, is because staff is working, with the inspector and the contractor to remove this conflict. Now, as I mentioned, in the last meeting when we did the presentation about the parking lot, we initially were going to close the entire parking lot so we can do all the work. And because of the concern that's been voiced about the parking, we decided to do it in 4 phases.
Great.
So consequently, that's going to take, longer than if you were able to close the parking lot and redo it all at once. So for example, in this particular case where, we were confined to the phase 1, which is, the section behind Bailey's, when we have to redesign a section now, in normal circumstance, if you were closing the parking lot, the contractor can work somewhere else. But in this particular case, they're confined to this section that they have to work on. So until you remove that conflict in the infrastructure, you can't progress. But that doesn't mean, we're gonna be delayed. We're still at the beginning of the job, and we're always looking for opportunities to cut the time in construction. So for example, there could be things that can be done faster. We can allow the contractor to work a little bit longer. Sometimes, you can let him work on Saturdays if the situation allows in Old Town. So we're gonna continue to look at these opportunities where we're gonna cut the time for construction. And we have actually, the way Public Works supervises project, because I heard some comment like, somebody goes there and they don't see anybody from the city. We never have somebody that's gonna sit at a project the entire day. Inspectors are assigned multiple projects, so they have to go to several sites during the day. We have a project manager on every single project that also have several projects that they're gonna go to, and not just, that project site. And in this particular project, because it's in Old Town, we also have a supervising inspector that, in addition to the regular inspector that's overseeing this work, and I also have a supervising engineer that's overseeing the project manager, so we can, solve problems quickly and keep the project going. The last thing we want is to keep coming to you and try to explain why, there are delays. I can assure you that we're doing and our staff is doing the best they can under the circumstance to complete the project in a timely manner. We all know construction is, you start digging, you're gonna run into things, especially in Old Town. It's just, we have a lot of old facilities, we don't know what's underneath. So you start digging, you're gonna start running into things, and then you're gonna have to deal with it during construction. So I just want to mention that. As far as the parking lot, based on the schedule, it's 120 working days. It's supposed to be done in January, but we're making every effort to beat that by, a significant time. And also I heard comments about, it seemed like entire Temecula is under construction. And there is some truth to that. And the reason for that is a lot of time we try to hit the summertime with a lot of our construction projects. For example, we have a couple of paving projects. We have Pechenga Parkway, Butterfield Stage, and we try to do it in the summer. Now we're gonna start Rainbow Canyon. Rainbow Canyon, a lot of the work is at night. Well, if you're doing it in the winter, you can't pave at night, because the asphalt has to be a particular temperature in order to pave. So we do try and utilize the summer month to do a lot of our construction projects. And we just happen to have, two major freeway projects that actually span over, like French Valley, for example, it spans over a 2-year period. So that's just, it's gonna go until May next year. And then the auxiliary lane between Temecula Parkway and Rancho California Road, that's actually, we're scheduling a ribbon cutting for that on October 1st. So that should be finishing up quickly here. If you have any other questions?
Go ahead.
What is the time frame targeted for completing the conflict that's stalling the Epperson project?
We figured it's about, we're working on it now. They were talking about, a week, 10 days, kind of thing. So it's not like a lengthy process.
Okay. So how many parking spaces are unavailable right now during this stall?
Let me see. I'm looking at the presentation of what we told you last time.
Okay.
So on the phase 1 part of it, it says we're taking 60 out of the 148 spaces.
Okay, that's a
So-
big hit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big hit, okay, all right. Well, I know you're diligently pursuing, and we appreciate that, thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, and yes, hopefully it'll be done within 10 days.
Thanks,
To get
Mayor.
it moving, thank you. All right. Community Development Director report.
We're going to look into that overnight parking issue and report back at the next Old Town Local Advisory Committee meeting. And we'll also have a presentation on Altair and the home product review for villages A, B, and C at the next meeting.
Excellent. All right, thank you. And I think that is it. We will now, anything else? All right, we will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you.